Speaking of games, last week we wanted to touch on the Nintendo Switch. We didn't get a chance to. Jordan, you wanted to talk about your Nintendo Switch impressions. Obviously, Dom can talk about his too. Yeah, go for it.
How about this? How about I give you a twist, Jordan? I'll clock you for 1 minute, and you got to rattle off things you like, and then I'll clock you for another minute, and you rattle off things you don't like, and then we'll chat at the end. All right, you ready?
I,
Things you
you
like.
may do that. Let's do this. Let's do this.
All right, things you like. Go.
So, I don't like the fact that I've tried downloading Mr. Shifty like 4 fucking times now, and I've had to restart my system. I don't like the fact that my console's slowly warping, and it seems like the general quality of the hardware in the dock, in the Switch handheld, in the Joy-Cons, in the controllers, and the accessories is pretty fucking bunk, and that's really uncommon for Nintendo, who is usually great about making solid hardware. Very fucking disappointed in that. Tired of hearing about scratch screens and bullshit like this. Um, I'm really tired of the fact that this is obviously a console that came out like way too fucking early. The UI is too simple. There's things that I need in the console that aren't there, like data transfer. I have to like re-download. When I got my SD card, I had to re-download all this shit because, of course, I couldn't just transfer it over like I would on PS4 or Xbox. And then, yeah, they still haven't figured out their account situation. And the
All right.
eShop is bare as fuck.
Buzzer.
eShop's bare as fuck, yo. eShop
All right.
bare as fuck.
All right.
So,
Now,
okay, positivity. Here we go.
All right, 1 minute for positives, and go.
It's easily the best hybrid console to ever exist up until this point. I'm sure it'll get outmatched soon, but kills the Nvidia Shield and shit like that. It is a great Zelda machine. That's a positive thing. I think they've done some creative things with the hardware, even though a lot of it is subpar as far as quality goes. The fact that the amiibo readers in the analog stick, it's creative, and I really like that about Nintendo. So they're pushing gaming in the sense that I feel like, being able to just rip this out of the dock and you're right there playing the game, there's no loading or anything. That's pushing me somewhere that I think, and I'm pushing gamers somewhere that we've wanted to be since we started playing Nintendo as a kid. So I really like that we're kind of going full circle there, and I'm glad that Nintendo is the one bridging that gap. And so that's less specific than my negative parts.
All
But
right, you made it.
yeah, I just feel like the hybrid part of it is its strongest sense. So,
Right.
um,
So,
but
let
just
me
go
let me
ahead with
say
your impressions, and then we'll come back to me.
let me say I'll agree with you on all the negatives. I haven't had a lot of those issues personally, but I've heard of other people who
eShop's
are
garbage.
with the warping, well, the hardware issues specifically. I haven't had any problems like that, but people having the disconnecting Joy-Con, some people are having the warping and the screen scratching, that stuff. While completely inexcusable, it makes sense to why a hybrid portable console that's tiny, that can is supposed to be able to play these huge games, like it's just something that was going to be susceptible to that kind of stuff. Again,
I
not an
disagree.
excuse, right? Not an excuse, but I wish they would have done better. But I can see they probably struggled to get the hardware exactly like they have it. I'm sure they'll have new iterations, slim models, so to speak, that improve on some of it. The software and the network and the system stuff, the account stuff, it's completely baffling how they managed to make it a little bit better, but it's still nowhere near all the system stuff we have on the other consoles, and that's like completely inexcusable. It doesn't make any sense how they can't get some engineers to develop some software across their system. It doesn't make any sense, but overall, at the end of the day, like you said, like this thing is great at the core function of what it does, which is you can play Zelda on your TV and then instantly pick it up. And I didn't even actually mean to snap there. I guess their marketing has actually ingrained it into my head.
And you really can't do that anywhere else.
Right. So that is it's such a core, unique feature to it that, and of course that they have this game that releases with it, even though there's not much else besides that game that's so good that
Right.
it kind of, I don't want to say it makes it all the issues worth it, because they still need to fix all that shit, but it makes it bearable, I guess, and you kind of you give those things a pass in some cases. Obviously, if your system's not working, and it's bent, and your controllers aren't working, then that's no good. But
yeah. The warping specifically, I want to touch on because my biggest issue with the hardware, where I was disagreeing with you earlier, Dom, is just that I can tell that they had these hardware design issues, and they said, well, we want to make a bigger profit on this, so we're going to put cheap hardware in there that's we know is going to either warp. We know these docks are going to scratch the screens. We know this bullshit's going to happen where you're going to have dead pixels and shit like that. They knew this shit was going to happen, and they just shoved it on through. And I just don't see, like, at this day and age, obviously Microsoft did some shit like that with the Xbox
Original
Red
360.
Ring, but I just do not think that where we are in today's gaming industry, with people being so vocal about their feedback and so connected to the first parties, I just don't think you would see Sony or Microsoft shipping consoles out that are this half-assed hardware-wise.
It could be not necessarily. I'm not saying this isn't a reason why, but not necessarily that they would save money on the parts and they could make more of a profit. It could be that the parts they use would be quicker in manufacturing to be able to get these units made in time for the release, because it seems like it was so rushed,
Whatever it was, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying it's good, but that it may be a different
but that's
reason.
a good point.
Yeah. I don't have any Nintendo Switch impressions because I don't have one yet. I told you I'm saving up money. I'm going to get one this fall.
Well, what are your impressions from hearing
everything
as an outsider?
I am thankful I didn't buy it at release. And it's not because of the software. Like, I really want to play Zelda so bad. Which is great for them, right? That I'm sitting here wanting to buy a Switch. That's a problem they had with the Wii U.
Jared, I'm going to echo your advice from last week. Just wait.
Yeah, 100%.
You're gonna enjoy it, and they are improving at that with the updates, just like Mass Effect Andromeda. So it's gonna be worth it to wait, because they have plenty of issues to work out just with the software of the Switch that you won't have to deal with.
Oh yeah, 100%. These are a lot of the issues you guys are having are launch console issues, and your problems and the reason you're complaining about them are justified. It's not that you shouldn't have complaints because it's the release of a console. You should still, as a consumer, be upset with things that are going wrong with the product you spent so much money on. But it kind of comes with the territory as well,
It's just so far into the deep end and the extreme this time. Like, I just feel like, you see this with every console launch, and usually that's why I wait about a year. But I feel like this is just so extreme where, like, it's just so bare bones, a lot of this stuff. And so you just see how, like, obviously with the game lineup, and then they're just trickling all these things out that should have been there from day one. You could just see that they were fumbling this to get it out in time, probably for financial reasons. And so it's just kind of maddening that this is one of, I would say, the most bare bone console launches that we've seen in a long time, probably since, this side of the 21st century.
Also, sorry, go ahead, Dom.
I just had to jump back to, Microsoft and Sony there was no chance that the Xbox One and the PS4 and the Pro were going to ship with, this number of hardware issues. Like, that just that's not going to happen anymore. But frankly, like, their innovation hardware-wise isn't there at all. Like, they're just shipping, it's just another box. All they have to do is make sure it stays cool and it turns on. I mean, they've done it over and over, right? Where this is actually like an entirely new thing. So it's, it's got to move, it's got to be docked, and it's got to play games that are as good as it can and up to par console-wise. So it's just it's going to be more susceptible to hardware issues like that. I think that's inevitable. They should have done a better job, doing more testing to try to limit them.
Yeah, it just needed more. It just needed a lot more R&D, it seems like, and that would have ironed out these things. And these are R&D things that we're talking about. Like, we're talking about, some nitty gritty stuff that, like, consumers really shouldn't have to deal with even at a launch. This is obviously not as bad as, like, Samsung phones blowing up, but it's like it's the easiest part of that spectrum. It's the lightest part of that grouping that you could have with these new device launches, where you're just fumbling it, and it's clearly the stuff that should have been ironed out in R&D if you had proper amounts of time.
Yeah. The thing is, I think Nintendo, hopefully they're paying attention to this. I think they obviously know I really think this was a rushed console, and I think they are going to fix these problems and reiterate on the actual build, and make it better and stuff like that. And I think they really were just trying to push to get this out with Zelda, because I think the profit loss on this, I think they felt that as good as Zelda was, they knew what they had on their hands. They're like, there are going to be issues with the Switch. Is Zelda good enough to justify us rushing this console out? And they obviously thought so, and millions of gamers have thought so, right? So I think that I'm sitting here, I hear all of these issues from you guys, and you're mad that these issues are happening, but you're still excited for the future of Switch. I am upset that these issues are happening. I'm still excited to buy a Switch this fall. Dom, the same. Like, I think they're in a good position to where all they need to do is show progress on fixing these issues, and they're good. A situation could be a lot worse, but it still is bad that these things are happening, and hopefully they understand that we realize, there's no mask over eyes. We realize that this was rushed. Like, something happened, obviously, with the new hardware and building something new, that there are these issues, and as long as they work towards fixing those, we'll be happy with that. So,
my biggest thing with these hardware issues is that I'm worried that so I guess you have a year-long warranty just from Nintendo, I'm sure, but just the repercussions that maybe, it starts warping, and then a year and a half later it's just warped to the point where a Joy-Con won't fit, or the screen starts blinking, or what the fuck ever, the dock scratching the screen or whatever. I'm just worried that it'll get to down the road, and then I'm just like, well, I'm past my warranty, and it just screwed up my console to the point of it not working, even though I've taken care of it like a baby, like I do all my electronic devices this whole year and a half, 2 years, and I'm just going to have to, buy a new one, which if I just take care of my Xbox One, if I just take care of my PlayStation, if I just take care of my Vita or my 3DS, my portable things that I'm moving around all the time, my laptop, my tablet, my phone, they last, and I don't have to worry about those things. So it's just when you have this like low quality hardware, I'm just worried about it breaking down over time. And I think you're close to me, at least, Dom. I just know I'm super intense about keeping my stuff really safe, my electronics safe, and I think you can say the same.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like I'm just worried that even no matter how hard we work at that, and you too, Jared, even if you're waiting until the fall, it's like I'm just worried that we're going to have to just buy a new console at some point, because they're just all going to break down,
So I'm at the same spot with you. That's what I'm expecting. But I'm also expecting at 2 years, so March 2019, I'm expecting by then they'll have their slim model out, and I'm going to want it anyway. And the issues won't bother. Not that this is a good answer, because you shouldn't have to buy
I hope
it.
I hope it's a pro model, not a slim. I hope they iterate, let's
or
go
both.
4K something.
Yeah.
Right.
But I know I'm going to want that new model anyway. So part of me, again, that's not the right. I hate to encourage their behavior.
It's a bad mentality. Yeah, it's bad.
That's what it is.
Also, this isn't.
It's a good point.
This isn't only a Nintendo thing when it comes to hardware, though. Like, I am super protective of my stuff that I buy. I take excellent care of it, and then sometimes stuff just happens. My Xbox One, I have like a disc read error in it, and it's hard for it to read actual discs, which is fine because I buy most stuff digital. But like the weird thing too, and I actually appreciate this, but it was weird to me to find out. I called Xbox and I was talking about something with my account, right? I don't remember what exactly. The lady had my account pulled up, and she's like, have you been having issues with your Xbox? And I'm like, no, not really. Why? And she's like, I'm reading here that your Xbox it has a disc read error. It looks like it's gonna have trouble reading discs.
Some shit you would not see from Nintendo.
And I'm like, that's insane that they can see my system and see what exactly is going down and tell me about it and be like, yeah, if you have it's crazy to me. It's really interesting. But
did they offer to help?
I was already past the warranty, but it was interesting to know that they could see that issue without me telling them. You know what I mean? It was really
like on a
interesting.
PC, whenever you see like, oh, this error happened, do you want to report this issue to whatever the application maker? So it's just doing that automatically apparently, which is nice.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's our Nintendo Switch impressions. Obviously, I'll have mine whenever I get one, but that was the good, the bad, and the ugly. And
Dear God, I hope I can download Mr. Shifty. The signal loss, being around other devices, and the signal dropouts because you're overloading the frequencies or whatever you call them. it's a real issue. Sorry, I'm just throwing one more thing in there, but I would like to play Mr. Shifty sometime.